Welcome in Line by Line. Today, I welcome back two more Wees. Hi.
Hi.
So we are analyzing his song, actually his remix of Matthieu Peugeot's speech or parts of the speech named "Why Eve is Talking to a Snake." I love that work. Tell me, how did you come up with that idea?
I was watching Matthieu Pajot's talk with Jordan Peterson. Matthieu is the brother of Jonathan Pajot, which people probably have guessed by now. And Jonathan once said something like he is the mastermind behind the whole symbolic thinking thing that they have been going for quite some time now. And it really shows when Matthieu is talking. And so there were a few. I cut up the whole conversation, and I have been working on a few other songs from that conversation as well. But this one was very easy for me to finish. The musical aspect of it is something that I came up with, I think, almost 10 years ago now. Almost 10 years ago now. And it was for my album when I was a rapper. And I finished it for this, and then put Matthieu over it. I thought it was fitting to some degree.
That's excellent. I really love the instrumental and like everything is to the beat. It's amazing. Guys, check it out. I will provide the links below. And yeah, subscribe and support.
Yeah, please do so, because my account has been terminated in the beginning of this year. So I lost every subscriber and every progress that I made, which is quite sad. It's not a political thing or anything. It's a misunderstanding between me and Google, and I hope that we can work it out at some point. But I don't really think so, because Google, because of how big they are as a company, they don't really have customer service, so I don't get through to anyone directly. But yeah, we'll see. Even if not, I made a new account. I made one for the whole label, which is not only two more V's, but everything that I put out, and the people that make music, let's say, under me. So yeah, please subscribe to that, and let's get those numbers up again.
Yeah. Please support. Okay. Let's get to reading.
Matthieu starts with, "She represents the opposite of Adam." That's exactly, when he's fumbling a little bit, that's exactly what is, it's pretty, once you know these things, you can see it very clearly in the story. So like I said, Adam, his job is to name the animals. So what does Eve do? She listens to the animals. That's one way to see it, which is very interesting as a start, I think, because mostly I didn't think much about what exactly they were doing in paradise. It seemed more like, it's nice to be there, but I didn't think of them having jobs or roles that they really play. And he makes that quite clear in the beginning, which is Adam assigns meaning to them, gives them names, and Eve is the one who she let's say she talks to the animals, she listens to the animals, or the things that are being named. And while Adam is taking meaning from above and assigns it to something of the earth, Eve is listening to the earth and trying to convey what the earth, let's say, thinks about the meaning that is being assigned to it. So it's like a two-way thing that they have going there.
Yeah, it's like their perception of reality completes each other somehow.
Right,
But
right.
I love that question. Why is she talking to the snake? I was thinking about it. Like for a long time, I was contemplating that idea of communicating with Ouroboros, that snake that is its own tail. I actually was writing poetry even about it. And when I listened to your song, and why is she talking to the snake? I actually thought it was about my poem for some reason, like egocentric way of seeing things. And it felt like really relatable to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are we doing this? Why is she talking to a snake? And that posing a question, it's like a call for contemplation. Um, yeah, I would say it's thought provoking.
Yeah, definitely. That's also what Matthieu gets into in the next bit. He says, so why is she talking to the snake? This is a question nobody asks themselves, which is interesting. People sometimes say, wait, why is this snake talking? But the real question they should be asking themselves is, how can Eve understand the snake? Or how does Eve know how to understand what the snake is saying? Which is like turning the question that we normally ask ourselves on its head.
Exactly. I think it's I was thinking about it because this curiosity of knowing the world and how it works, it's one way of doing it is thinking about it, contemplating on reality, observing reality. But then there is this active approach of communication, seeking out knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
let's say. And that was my idea. Although I always thought that a conversation is the strength of man.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I get that. Because it's like a more active thing, let's say. It's more, it seems from that angle more like a masculine property. But I think the juxtaposition that Matthieu is pointing to here is more that the modern, let's say, scientific worldview is looking at, it's hearing about a snake that can talk and is asking, well, snakes can talk. Why is the snake talking in this story? That's a stupid story. But that's completely missing the point, because the thing that's curious about this is not that Eve is having a conversation with the snake, but that Eve is the one who can understand the snake. So it's not about the conversation per se, but it's more the thing that, like the thing of Eve, the thing that she has going for herself, let's say, or that women have going for themselves as a general thing, because men are generally, directing things, and then the female role is much more seeing if the things that are being directed are fine with the way that they are being directed, and then is trying to convey this to the man so that the man can react to this and be a better leader.
oh, nurturing, gathering, like kind of sort of.
Yeah, that's how I would understand it as well.
That makes sense. And also, I think snakes represent also the danger in a
Definitely.
sense.
I think that's especially Peterson's point when he talks, like in his Bible classes, when he talks about um what the story of Adam and Eve represents on a psychological level, because Eve is saying is like pointing at the danger, or is making the men see the danger, and then the man has to react to that in a sense. And Peterson talks a lot about how that is something that's present in like romantic endeavors. So uh, that's almost a direct quote. Like when men see a beautiful woman, they freeze to a degree, and they are horrified. I mean, that's heavy language for this, but in a sense, like, they become very much aware of their flaws and of their shortcomings, and that is because women have this ability to make you see the things that are not right or not in place or something like that, either about yourself or about the world. When you have a family that you take care of, I assume, like, I'm not a dad, but I assume the moment that you have a child, there are so many more things that you realize that could be dangerous for the child, for example.
Mm-hmm. I understand. The awareness of the dangers are massively elevated and heightened. Where the man is by himself, he doesn't feel judged. Yeah, that's a good thought.
We can also take, I mean, maybe that's a little bit too far, but the other thing that Jordan always likes to say is that beauty highlights what's ugly. And that's still the same principle, because you have the beautiful woman and then you have the ugly flaws that about yourself or about, the world or whatever, that are being pointed out by this. That's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but it's still the same principle. So then it goes into the second verse, where Matthieu makes it a little more clear what's going on. Let's say, he says, Adam has the ability to name the animals. So this is what you are. This is what you are. It's a way to symbolize the general idea of assigning meaning to things or imposing meaning upon things, which is, again, this movement of taking something, meaning from heaven, and then assigning it to something that belongs to the earth. It's and what Eve does is she does the opposite. She mediates with the earth. That means with matter that has no meaning, or has not been given meaning yet, and also with things that Adam has named, but that are not satisfied with the meaning that Adam has given. So we can actually think that that's what the snake is up to, a little bit in the story. Which, I mean, I don't know if that's the theological thing that like the priest would talk about when he talks about this bit of the Bible, because what we focus on most of the time, at least in my experience, is the temptation in itself and the motivation that that Satan is behind this whole thing. But yeah, even if we would look at it only as the snake coming up to Adam and being unhappy and being unhappy about the meaning that it has been given, that's still in a way a self-centered thing. So I assume that Adam is capable of making mistakes in his naming of things, because he still isn't, let's say, perfectly developed or anything like that. He is quite new to this business. But the snake coming up to Adam and saying, or to Eve and saying, I'm not happy about this. This is not what I am, or whatever, is still a self-centered way of looking at it, going about it, in a sense.
I actually think that Adam is that authoritarian kind of force that you are this and you are that. He imposes not judgment, but imposes roles onto the animals somehow by naming them. And the snake, it seems like Eve is an easier target to talk to, because she doesn't do that. I love it. I actually love how the dog is walking in the sky. Yeah. So Eve has more or less people skills or animal skills.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That's exactly it. In the follow-up song that I'm working on, which is not out yet, that's also what Matthieu clarifies. So the sin of Adam is not listening to nature, and being like this authoritarian figure, not being not thinking about what nature would want. And the sin of Eve then is that she like her role is that she gives Adam these riddles that he can solve, like, hey, this thing is not happy about how you named it, name it better. And then he can find a better way. But her sin is that she gives him a riddle that he cannot solve, because she eats of the fruit. She presents him with a problem, not only because she ate, but also with the fruit that she gives to him. She presents him with a problem that he cannot solve, like a labyrinth that he can't get out of. And so these are the types of sin, let's say, that they commit.
It feels so bizarre how there is a miscommunication between Adam and Eve, in a sense, and yet there is some sort of illusion of an understanding between Eve and the snake.
Yeah, very interesting.
Peculiar.
Yeah, because she is closer, let's say, than to Satan, than she is to. Yeah, right. But in extension, closer to Satan than she is to her own husband, which is definitely a problem. Like even if the snake is right, her role is not to side with the snake and then throw Adam into like chaos. Her role is that even if the snake presents her with a real problem, she has to convey this to Adam in a way that he can make sense of it and that he can solve it, because everything else is ill-willed
or foolish.
Oh, foolish, right.
Like one of those.
Then I'd like to go with foolish, because being ill-willed is worse, I think.
I don't think, even from the Bible story, it feels to me like she was misled. Like the awareness of her action was minimal. Like she did not know that the moment Adam tries the apple, he will be doomed. She thought, oh, this is the knowledge. I would like you to experience that thing. And that thing is getting out of the garden, basically. I don't think she knew it.
I think, I mean, to a degree, she must have known, because God told them, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's one thing to know something, and then it's another thing to know something, to really have understood it. So I think that's a distinction that we can make. But you're still right, because I don't remember who told me this, but if Adam hadn't eaten from the fruit, and then even if Adam hadn't reacted the way that he did when God confronted them, then they wouldn't have fallen in the same way. If you remember how Adam was a bit cowardly, let's say, when he said, like, the woman that you gave me, me, she gave me of the right. So he's pushing away any sort of blame that he has.
Oh, he did not own up to his own action.
Right, like, not at all.
So, but did Eve actually trick him with the apple? Because like he knew where the apple came from.
Yeah, no, she didn't trick him, as far as I know. Yeah. He was doing, I mean, she knew that she was doing something that God forbid them, and he knew as well. So they both committed a real sin, let's say, with knowledge about that they were committing a sin. And so they didn't trust God properly also. But yeah, I mean, the way that Adam reacted was not good, because he wasn't only blaming Eve, but he was also blaming God, because he says, like, the woman you gave me, she gave. That's not.
If only Adam knew principles of nonviolent communication. Do you think it's good, though, the fact that they are not those two beings living in the Garden of Eden, but two beings who started the humanity, basically, with flaws of humanity.
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
Because it's not like God didn't want them to eat of the two trees. He just wanted them to eat them. He wanted them to eat from it at the right time.
Oh.
So it's like there's like your children, for example, there's a certain time period where they can't eat certain things. They are going to at least have pain, but probably die if they eat certain things. But when they were fully matured and they were capable of integrating whatever it is that they were getting into themselves, that's when they can eat from it. And it's the same thing about food as it is with knowledge as well. Like there's just some things you can't know when you're not developed enough. It will break you.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Like I did not know that. I always was like, why? Like, is it really good? But yeah, the timing was wrong, and the disobedience itself.
Right. So if you disobey the highest principle, the ultimate good, something or someone that does not have anything bad or evil or whatever in himself, then you're obviously in the wrong then. So that's a principality thing, let's say, that's a problem. And then also a technical thing, because there's just things that you can't integrate properly at some moments, and then if you do, you'll die.
Yeah, I mean, no arguing that.
Right. Okay, I'll keep on reading. So Matthieu says, so we can say Eve is mediating the perspective of the earth, of nature. And this story is really, really deep. It represents basically the right wing and the left wing. If you look at it at a political scale. And Adam is the traditional perspective. He represents, we have tradition, we have a past, we have our insights from the past, and we order things according to that. So that's what Adam is doing. And Eve really represents the left wing. She represents, I'm going to listen to nature, and if it doesn't agree with what Adam is doing, I'm going to try to mediate that. And then he goes into detail what that means. Like he gives an example. Basically, the ecological movement basically represents what Eve is doing. It represents the feminine aspect as described in the story. And also both aspects, like that's my comment on it, both aspects of it, because there is definitely something to the ecological movement. People that want to take care of the earth, that's generally not a bad thing. I'm not for pollution, for example, or littering or anything like that. So it's good if we take care of that. It's good if we are good gardeners for the garden that has been given to us, which was our role anyway, which we got when we came to paradise, came into paradise, right? And so that's like the positive aspect of it. But she also in her sin represents the negative aspect of the ecological movement, where they are like this, like the worst example, Extinction Rebellion, where they are like, stop having children, abort more children, and just like the whole humanity is a cancer on the planet thing. And yeah, she represents these both of these things, I think, very clearly.
Symbolically, I can see the analogies there. That when the left goes too far, it's as evil as when the right goes too far.
Right, because if you have like an ungodly amount of authority, it becomes tyranny, and then it becomes stale, and it dies, because everything that has no form of change in it. Everything that completely stands still just is dead. But on the other hand, if you put too much change into something and there's no stability whatsoever, then it's like a flood that comes, right? It's like a flood that comes, and there's nothing that can keep standing, and everything falls apart. So both extremes lead to death, and both things are necessary in a proper amount and in a proper manner for life to exist.
Yeah, oppositional relating is okay as long as it's building something and constructive.
Right.
But when it's too rigid, too far to the extreme, it requires the opposite side to go too far and to the extreme. And their relating is fighting rather than constructive. That's the way I see it. It becomes almost tribal. It like, instead of being that kind of yin yang sort of thing that like flows and shows different aspects, like she completes him because she can talk to earthly things, he completes her because he can talk to sky things. They both kind of nicely generate beautiful garden. But the moment it's like rigid, angry, forceful, which is again kind of mirrors itself to a degree, it's like it's destructive. Death.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also something that we see nowadays. Obviously, like the way that people are arguing politically is exactly this tribal thing that you were talking about. Like, I'm a conservative, I can only agree with this. I'm what, a socialist or whatever, I can only agree with this. When in reality, the constructive way of having a society and the proper way of having a society is something where both of these forces try to work together, because they recognize that they themselves are necessary, but also the other side is necessary just as much, just in a different way, let's say.
Yeah, I would like to add to it. My vision is limited to the point of view where I'm standing. So I can only see the front side of the cup, and you can only see the handle. You cannot see the pictures that are on my side. And I will like, clearly this cup has pictures and black and white letters on it.
Right.
And you're like, no, this cup has a white handle. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? I don't see any white handle here. Oh,
yeah.
I don't see any white handle. So we need, in order to know what is reality, both sides of perspective, both sides to see a thing. And in the, let's say, rigid mode, where one side says, if you disagree that my side is the only side possible, which is black and white, and you clearly can't see it, you just can't, you don't, it's not your reality.
Right.
And I will be like, you're evil, you're this, and complete dehumanization.
Yeah.
It's, and then the other side, no, it's your evil, there is clearly a handle.
Right.
It's again, we need more eyes and more perspective in order to make full, let's say, 3D view of the world.
Which is something that transcends politics, like completely, because it's just a basic pattern of reality, and wherever you look, you are going to see this manifest itself. And in politics, it's something, it's quite easy to see because politics are so polarized, especially right now. But it's something that you can see everywhere. Like you need for life to exist, you need to have like solid ground, but you also need water and something that's flowing, and you need these things to interact properly for flowers to grow, for example.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with literally everything. You're gonna have that everywhere.
It's like mundane and divine have to work together in order for life to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like you can't only have the most exciting things in life. Those are oftentimes those are very fleeting moments. Um, uh, you also can't have only the mundane stuff, because then there's nothing to live for, technically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always it's always like a combination of these things. Like a harmonic combination, a symphony. I think I stopped at it represents the feminine aspect as described in the story. It's about maybe the snake is not happy with the name that Adam gave the snake. It's just a general symbol for anything that you can impose meaning upon, can then turn around and complain about it. Like, no, I disagree. And I think like that's what the snake is doing. That's what the snake is doing. And that's what, like, my dog, for example, is doing as well. Like I'm sitting here and I'm trying to talk to you, but he says like, no, I disagree. I want your attention. I want to play. And but that's fine. Because we're learning from Adam and Eve's mistakes, and we're trying to make it better and mediate in some form. It's also just for a second, I was laughing at Adam and making a bit of fun of him in the beginning. But I'm doing that from a perspective that's completely aware that I'm doing the same thing and probably worse than Adam did when he was there. It's just it's good to I think it's good from time to time to highlight these things, because especially like on the right, on the Christian right, when you get in these like these incel territories, they're like, oh, F you, Eve, for screwing up our place in paradise. It's your fault. And I mean, like, it is Eve's fault, of course, but it's also Adam's fault at the same time. And Adam could have prevented the whole thing even after Eve did what she did, and he didn't. So it's you can't blame this on one gender. We did this collectively.
I mean, if is a good scapegoat. I always hear how people blame the mothers, and kind of like nobody really blames fathers. And I was like, why wouldn't you blame a bad father? Like you keep blaming only mothers.
Yeah.
And it's I do kind of have a sense of it. Because mothers are the ones who educate and supposed to be the nurturing ones, and if they don't do a great job, then they're being blamed because their role was to be nurturing and educate.
Right. It's more apparent oftentimes. Like the only time that we really blame fathers nowadays is when we look at these OnlyFans girls. It doesn't matter which of them you ask. It's like always, no, I don't know my dad. I don't have a relationship with him. And that's when it becomes apparent that that's what's lacking. But it's still hard to figure out why exactly that is a problem. Because when a mother doesn't care, like when she doesn't nurture her children, then they starve, for example. Like it's quite apparent that is something that's pretty on the nose. But the influence that a father has is something that's I think harder to see. It's not impossible at all. And when you find out what exactly it is that you have to be looking for, then it's also easy to see. but it's still not as on the nose as the mistakes that a mother can do from time to time, let's say.
Yeah. Different roles.
Right. Different roles that we're playing, and also different effects that it has if we play them well, or if we don't.
Anything that you can impose meaning upon can turn around and complain about it. No, I disagree. So what exactly does he disagree with?
I think Adam right now, or Matthieu, either of them are not disagreeing, let's say, with anything. It's more either Eve, or in this context, it's the snake talking, or the general thing that can disagree. Like if I stop playing with my dog now, then he's going to start barking in a minute or two, and so he's saying I disagree. But also, if you look at, let's say you name fire differently. You name it as something that isn't hot and that can't burn your skin if you touch it. It's going to disagree, and it's going to disagree quite loudly the minute that you touch it, or the minute that you leave it in your room unattended, or something like that. And so if we don't name things properly, they are going to protest against it. And they are going to do this rightly so in many instances. It's because the name is not only the word that's associated with you, but it's your meaning that's being assigned to you.
It seems like that disagreement here feels to me like an advice. Disagree with the things you don't think are right. Speak up. You don't like something. Look, even animals are disagreeing.
I think that's exactly right, because that's the sin of Adam, is that he's not listening to nature, and that he's not naming things properly. That's why they disagree, and they have a right to disagree. The sin is in that sense, I think, not in the snake, but the sin is in Eve, when she or let's say it differently, because obviously there's something there as well. But the sin is not in the disagreement itself. The sin is in this sense. The sin is in the way that the disagreement is presented. Because I can disagree with anything that you tell me, and I can be unhappy about it. But if I bring that up in a proper, productive way, or in a constructive way, then you are going to react to that, and we're going to find some sort of compromise. And but if I'm like, no, and then I'm not talking to you, and I'm not listening to you properly, and then the whole conversation that we have is like very unpleasant, and we don't get anywhere. That's the sin. The sin is not that I'm unhappy about something. The sin is the way that I present this unhappiness.
I'm bewildered by that story. There is so much nuance in it.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and I like we have only touched the absolute surface of it. I was not aware of any of these things before I was engaging with the ideas of Jonathan, and especially Matthieu. And I know that Matthieu is working right now on a book about like Eve and the feminine in this aspect. He talks about this a little in a little more detail in his conversation with Jordan. So there's going to be a lot more things coming to light, I would say, when that book came out. It's absolutely crazy, because you can dive into these things like indefinitely. There's no bottom to it, to the Christian symbolism in general. It's stunningly beautiful.
It's discovery of our roots,
Mm-hmm.
or we came to be.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't proclaim yourself to be a Christian, it's still like the moment that you understand the symbolism behind these stories, you know that that's where you come from, and you know that that's what's going on inside of you. Yeah. But that's then also is in the long run, I think something that if you're being intellectually honest, and also if God has mercy on you, then that's something that will lead you to Christianity in the end. At least that's how it was for me, because the moment that I understood how deep this symbolism goes and how all-encompassing this story is, I also understood, you know, there's nothing outside of it. And so that's the thing that we're participating in. And so, like, that's the truth. You know what I mean? It's not only like in a doctrinal sense, the things that the church says is true, but the pattern of the Christian story is just, that's what reality is made of.
I mean, legends, even if it's just a legend, let's entertain that idea.
Mm-hmm.
They have a symbolic truth behind them, symbolic reality. So here we have roles of man and the woman, roles of paternal figure, let's say God,
Mm-hmm.
roles of rules that are set upon what you can do, what you cannot do, and then the search for how to navigate reality, the little discoveries of knowledge that happen, that knowledge has consequences. That story, that symbolism has a lot of lessons in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's a shame that people would disregard good stories, like good meaning behind that legend or a story, or like I don't know how to describe it properly. Because they're just like, oh, it's about God, so it's all fake.
Yeah.
It's like, do not throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
There is
Right.
there is a meaning in there. There is some lesson in there.
Yeah, because we're looking at it when we do exactly what you just described, we're looking at it from the entirely wrong perspective. We say, oh, this thing is about like the sky daddy, and so I don't have to listen to it. But that's not what this is. It's not like, the word God annoys me because of the things that I associate with it, so I don't listen to it. That's we have to look at what exactly does God mean in the sense of, in the context of all this story, and that's not like a bearded guy in the sky. It's you know, that's it's not a smart way of looking at it. Let's just say it, keep it to that. It's not a smart way of looking at it. But there's like actual very deep meaning and a very deep concept behind the idea of God. And when you say, okay, it's not the bearded sky daddy that I have to listen to, but it's the absolute good, the absolute pinnacle of love and goodness and wisdom and whatever, then anyone who says I don't have to follow that, I think they're being intellectually dishonest, if they understand it.
I think before you disregard the concept or the idea, you have to be able to understand it before. Like, do not throw away a book based on the color of its cover.
Right.
Read if you disagree with the ideas behind it. only then. I actually still think there is this kind of mosaic in the meaning. Why is Eve is talking to a snake? And the end, no, I disagree. It still feels to me like a call for a proper judgment.
Right. I would totally agree. That's what it is. Like that's the problem in the beginning, on both parts, like on Adam's part, but also on Eve's part, because she not only listens to the animal in the sense that she listens to what it has to say, but she listens to it in the sense that she obeys it, and that's the other problem. Like that's inverting the hierarchy again, in the sense that she doesn't listen to her husband, but to the snake, but also in the more important sense, she doesn't listen to God, but to the snake.
So does Adam.
Right.
In a sense.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't talk to the snake, but he listens to her wife instead of listening to God. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, they both kind of disagreed, but in a wrong place.
Right.
Instead of disagreeing with the snake, they disagreed with God. They listened to the wrong advisor, basically.
Right.
They listened to the but what do you think about this idea that it's better that small bird in your hand than the beautiful bird in the sky? Like, what's that proverb? Did you have this proverb?
In German, we have this: lieber den Spatz in der Hand als eine Taube auf dem Dach.
Oh, there is an English version of that proverb. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So in Russian, it's лучше синица в руках, чем журавль в небе. It's like it's better to have to appreciate something that you already have than a thing you might have, basically. And I was like just entertaining shortly the idea. The apple was already in the hand. It was right there. And the punishment was like not immediate. It was somewhere away. Future Eve would have to pay for it. The current Eve would not. Like, you know, like it's people we like, we don't exist in the future. We exist in the now. And the thing that is immediate is in the now. We don't think about the consequence, like rarely, basically. Or a sign of maturity is thinking about the consequence of your action. But when you're a child, you're like, oh, I think, let me do that. Like with little even contemplation of what it might bring upon.
Yeah. You can also turn it around. You can say that the immediate thing, like the Spatz in the hand that they had, was paradise and the paradisal state and their communion with God. And the thing that they, like the Taube auf dem Dach, was the knowledge of good and evil and being like gods that they were promised. So you can look at it both ways.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's actually good. That's true. They did not appreciate the good that they had in their hand. Excellent.
Like it works on both levels of analysis. It's just a different, right?
Yeah, it's like the cup. You can
right. Right.
You can always turn it around. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Everybody, please check out Matthieu's work. I will provide the link to his YouTube and also to Maurice's YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We are trying to raise the amount of subscribers. Thank you to our sponsor today, which is Free Time and the flood. Both Adam and Eve, they were saying yes to everything. That I disagree thing was coming from animals, basically. Like animals were disagreeing with the naming things. Snake would to Eve, look, Eve, here is an apple. And she's like, I agree. And then Eve comes to Adam, look, Adam, here is an apple. And Adam, I agree. Where he should have, like, even animals have like, no, we don't like our name. Please rename us. So it feels like that assertiveness was missing in both Adam and Eve. In non-violent communication, there is a distinction between request and demand. So request, and here I mean God. If God would request, please don't eat that apple, this means it's just a request. It's like, I would like you not to eat that apple. But demand would be, if you eat that apple, you all will be punished for eating that apple. And the punishment will be something you don't know. It's like fear the unknown, basically. And so I guess Adam did not know the distinction between request and demand. And so, well, since I don't know what the punishment is, I guess
He
it's
knew,
just a
though.
request. Oh, he knew he will be kicked out?
He knew it would be death.
Ah.
Which is, I mean, ultimately what happened. Like they didn't die.
Mortality, yeah.
Right, mortality in general entered being itself. The moment that they fell. Right, because God told them, don't eat from this, you are going to die. And then the snake came and said, well, you surely won't die. Right? So it lied, obviously. I mean, it, in a sense, it didn't.
It was like, you surely won't die today.
Like... Right. So it's not a lie in that sense. It's just also not really being truthful.
I mean,
but that's the thing about snakes, right? That's the thing that they represent. They are smart in the way that they do things. They don't just say, you're never going to die. Death is not going to enter the world. They just say, you won't die. And they didn't die right then. It's just that death entered their world as well. It took, I think, like 900 years for Adam to die. So that's quite the time span between committing the sin and having the absolute consequence of it.